Well, the success of your first album, did it give you ammo in your soul to go for it and do what you wanted to do, or did you have jitters about matching it?
No, we were really, when I say we, Pete, who was still collaborating, he had decided he wouldn't go back out on the road the next year, and J.D. Foster also decided that he would leave to pursue some producing also himself. That Pete was getting offers from a lot of people to produce. So somebody I saw you present with his father, Billy Joe Shaver, at the Club Lingerie. Eddie Shaver ended up joining the band.
Right.
But Pete and I were still discussing things when the year ended from the success of Guitars Cadillacs. We went in maybe in December of that year and recorded most of Hillbilly Deluxe. In fact, we may have done that record, that entire album, in about 24 days in the studio. It was the shortest recording process we ever had. And it was because, in fact, there were songs waiting in the wings that I'd been doing in nightclubs and been carrying around with me in my hip pocket, and some of the things on that demo ended up on the second album. But no, there wasn't apprehension. There was actually excitement, and excitement about how we were going to arrange things, what we were going to do instrumentation-wise. Were we going to introduce anything, something new. And Brantley Kearns, who continued to play fiddle on that. J.D. actually played bass on the second album, as Jeff Donovan did on drums. I went out to tour Hillbilly Deluxe with David Jackson on bass, because like I said, J.D. Foster had decided he didn't want to do the road. And because they'd all spent really a long 3 years at that point we'd had, kind of building up to, and then having the success happen in early '86 and lead through into early '87. And then Eddie Shaver came out and played lead guitar for me on the Hillbilly Deluxe tour. There was a variety of reactions to everything that had happened that previous year, the success of that, because we were probably at 1.5 million records sold when it ultimately ended up selling 2 million albums, I think, in its release, Guitars Cadillacs. But by the time we released Hillbilly Deluxe, it's probably close to 1.5 million. And it was really just excitement for the opportunity. Although I was now kind of out there with 2 of the 4 band members not being guys who had been out there on the road and created with me. And later that year, actually, Jeff decided he wanted to stay home, and Jeff Donovan on drums, and Jerry Angel stepped in and ended up performing a lot of tour. And then Davy Crockett, who was one of the drummers on my original demo tapes here at United Western, ended up finishing out that year with me on drums. And that band, with Davy and with Eddie Shaver, recorded the first Christmas offering I ever had, which was A Good Night to the Boys in the Band on one side, on side B. But side A, it was a Christmas single. It was a cover of Elvis covering the old blues, Santa Claus is Back in Town, which was fun to do. Pete produced it, and Eddie played lead guitar on it. It's one of the few things that Pete produced that he didn't play the lead guitar. Eddie Shaver, we deferred to Eddie on that one. So that was what was going on, varying kind of emotional changes and things to react and respond to. But the music was had a certain anticipation to it, I think people thought we might have a sophomore jinx, and I think they thought that I would, I remember somebody from the Halsey organization who was shocked when they heard the album the first time. Sherman wasn't. Sherman Halsey, who had helped launch my career, the son of Jim Halsey, he called me up after your 1984 article came out in the LA Weekly, and called me up out of the blue and said, "I know how to do this. I get it now." And I said, "Okay, let's talk." And he took over his management, and he's who was responsible for having me sell the 6-song LP of Guitars Cadillacs to Warner Records, and had me signed and stipulated all the clear details that I would have creative control, almost, you know, as much as a major label would give somebody. I think Lenny Warner told me the only other person that they allowed that at a young, kind of questionable, experienced age was Prince.
Wow.
When they signed Prince, that they allowed me final authority over who would produce, and of course, this case I was already working with Pete Anderson, and I would have control over the final say over any and all material. We didn't really have an A&R, you know, relationship. They realized by the end of that first album, and by the time we started recording Hillbilly Deluxe, that I could be left to my own devices. And that's how we arrived at doing this album.
Well, I remember in A&R meetings at Warner Brothers and things, when your name came up, everybody said, he's got it covered.
Well, and Paige Rowden, who had signed me out of the Nashville division, although I did all my artwork in L.A., because I live here, I would go to the Burbank, the art department over there, and create the look. And again, they gave me full reign with that. It was part of the stipulation in the original deal, the '85 contract. It was very unique. I look back now and realize just exactly how unique, and it was because, again, as you know, when you were under the guidance of Mo Austin and most importantly Lenny Warner, the edict came down from the top.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Lenny's the reason Warner had Prince, because the other labels that were chasing him were throwing a lot of money at him, but they all demanded that he would work with other producers. I think Columbia had you know, stipulation that he would have to let Maurice White from Earth, Wind & Fire produce, you know, the first Columbia album. And Lenny was smart enough to tell them, leave it be. Mm-hmm. Let him, it's what we want. What we want is him. So leave him alone. And that's kind of the way they treated us. They let me alone. They bought something that was intact, you know. Pete Anderson and I already knew, you know, what I had from the, you know, he had heard the demos, you know, and he had known me. We'd played live long enough that I'd touched on a lot of these songs with him. You know, that's how we went into making this second album. And I do believe that was the shortest recording sessions that I had in my career. It took less than a month to create and deliver the record.
You were ready.
Well, yeah, this time was another one that was very succinct. Why don't we play one of the other songs from Hillbilly Deluxe?